everybody, and it literally is Happy New Year. There's like less than an hour of this year left, and yeah, so it's New Year's Eve, and I'm sitting here making YouTube videos instead of being out with friends. Where did my life go so wrong? But heck no, I couldn't think of anything I would rather be doing right now than sitting here discussing my top 10 worst and best movies of 2019. Something that I normally do in 2 videos. I do a best of video, I do a worst of video. But I don't know, I'm just trying something different this year. I'm going to do it all in one video, which I don't think anyone else does. So yay, I'm special and unique. Alright, so let's get into my top 10 movies for this year. So I'm going to start off with some honorable mentions, because this year there were some really good movies. I gave a record number of 10 out of 10s this year. There were a total of 9. There were so many movies that I really loved. Now, keeping in mind, of course, this list is of my favorite movies. So even though there might be a movie that got a 10 out of 10 that was just technically perfect, it might not necessarily be the sort of movie that, you know, I want to sort of rush into revisiting anytime soon, but there might be a movie that was like an 8 out of 10 that I could just watch over and over and over again and just love so much more. So keep that in mind, but we're going to start off with some honorable mentions, some movies that came that close to making into my top 10 movies for the year. Starting with Alita Battle Angel. That movie I freaking loved, and it wasn't just because Robert Rodriguez is my most favorite film director of all time. It was just such a great vision, and I thought the central character of Alita, she won my heart in like the first 10 minutes she was on screen. I just thought she was absolutely compelling and charismatic, and I loved following her journey through this incredible sci-fi story. So yeah, I really loved that movie. Next up was a movie I really didn't expect to enjoy as much as I did, but that was Dr. Sleep. As much as I really like The Shining, I've never been one of those people that would put it in my favorite horror films of all time. But Dr. Sleep I thought was an extraordinary film. I thought the story was really engaging. I loved the visuals. Yeah, just everything about that film I really was drawn into, and I cannot wait to see it again. Next up in the honorable mentions is Knives Out, a movie that, yeah, by the trailer I knew I was going to love that one, because that cast... wow, that cast. But yeah, it turned out to be a really great murder mystery, had a lot of surprises. It didn't just sort of follow a stereotypical whodunit formula. It did things differently, which, yeah, Rian Johnson, he's known to do that, isn't he? And next on my list is a movie that I really thought was going to be in my top 10, and that was Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Yeah, that is my second favorite Tarantino film next to Pulp Fiction. I absolutely loved that film. I just thought it was such a rolling story. It was, and I know a lot of people criticized it for being like, you know, 3/4 of the movie is people driving, but I don't know, somehow Tarantino just makes that look good. Next on the list is a movie that barely anybody saw, hardly anybody made a review of, and shame on everyone for not promoting this film, and that was Arctic with Mads Mikkelsen. That film was so freaking good. It came so close to being in my top 10. It's a story about a guy who has crashed his plane in the Arctic, and he's just trying to survive out there, and along comes a rescue helicopter that also crashes, and so he's got to look after this girl who is barely alive. And yeah, it's like a man versus nature survival story. Brilliantly shot, amazingly acted. That film was extraordinary, and I'm really glad I got to see it a couple of times. And the final movie on my list of honorable mentions is a movie that unfortunately I didn't get to do a full review of. I just posted another video that was like a wrap up of the year with a bunch of little mini reviews of things that I didn't get around to, but that was Batman vs. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, a film that I actually did give a 10 out of 10 to. Like, it is flawless. I thought that movie was absolutely incredible, but maybe it's because I've seen it, I think, 4 times through the year. Maybe I'm kind of like a little bit off it now. So yeah, it didn't quite make it into my top 10 list, but that movie was extraordinary and I loved it. But that then brings me into my list of the top 10 movies of 2019, starting with Now, I know we're not getting this movie in Australia till 2020, and I was debating whether or not to put it on the 2020 list, but it's too far away. I can't wait that long. So yeah, look, 1917 is an absolute masterpiece on a technical level, on a story level, on every level. I loved that film far more than I thought I would. I cannot wait to see it again and again and again. It is a really great film that I absolutely loved, and yeah, I'm including it in this year's list because, I mean, I saw it weeks ago. Toy Story 4, I adored that film so much. For me, I thought it was one of the better Toy Story films. I really loved the story. I loved that they didn't just rehash the same kind of formula that they did with the other films. Bo Peep, I thought, was such an incredible character. I thought she was one of the best characters of this year. Just, you know, her self-sufficiency, and yeah, she was like a really strong female character, really well written. Yeah, I loved that film so much. Couldn't fault it. Next up is Shazam. Finally, the DCEU comes along and does something that most people actually liked. I thought everything about this film was so much fun. It was just a really entertaining film. I thought Zachary Levi was amazing in the lead role. Loved all the kids. The actors were brilliant. The whole story was just great. I really loved that film, and yeah, kind of wouldn't mind seeing more films like that if you're listening, DC people, which I know you're not. Next up is, of course, Joker, a movie that I'm sure a lot of people are going to put a lot higher on their lists. Yeah, look, for me, I mean, yeah, I absolutely loved it. It was a 10 out of 10 for me. But yeah, it was a very dark film, and it's a very serious film, and you know, for me, well, I was going to say, you know, I generally like more sort of lightweight, entertaining films. That being said, a lot of movies higher up in this list are movies that absolutely destroyed my soul. So, I don't know, maybe it didn't destroy my soul enough. Who knows? Either way, I liked it. It's on my list, so shut up. Parasite is another movie that I only saw not that long ago, and I was really busy, so I didn't get around to doing a full review. I did make mention of it in my end of year wrap-up video, but yeah, that movie is another 10 out of 10. It is absolutely extraordinary. I know every critic on the planet has put it on their top 10 lists as well. And yeah, look, if you get a chance to see this movie, don't hesitate. It is such a mixed bag of different genres. It's, yeah, I guess a dark comedy drama primarily, but oh, I enjoyed it so much. Have not forgotten it. I thought about it non-stop for like a week after I saw the film, and yeah, it is definitely well deserved of my top 10. Next up, we have Avengers Endgame, a movie that, when that came out, I kind of thought that was going to be fighting for the #1 spot on my list, but then all these other great movies came out this year. But yeah, I mean, what can be said about this movie that hasn't already been said? You know, after 20-something movies of leading up to this moment, 10 years of filmmaking, or 11 years, or however many years it was, I don't know. This film was such an incredibly emotional roller coaster. It is just a perfect comic book film in terms of like an action comic book movie. And yeah, it just wrapped up the whole Avengers Infinity saga so freaking well. I love that movie, but not as much as I loved So The Nightingale is a movie, another movie that hardly anybody got to see, but if you get a chance, I cannot recommend that movie strongly enough. It is absolutely incredible. Another movie that I didn't really expect to like as much as I did, but that is one of those movies with one scene in particular that had me not just tearing up in the cinema, but actually crying. Like, it was so hard to watch, but really justified in that it is such a good catalyst for this revenge story. Yeah, if you don't know anything about it, definitely check it out, look it up, try and see it if you can. It is an absolute masterpiece. So number 3 is a movie that for quite some time this year has actually been in my number 2 spot, but has just been nudged out recently. Yeah, and that is, of course, Midsummer, Ari Aster's follow-up to Hereditary. That guy, man, whatever he puts out next, I am going to be going to see. I love his films so much. They just really get to me. They really crawl under my skin, which is something that not a lot of horror movies do these days. But I remember sitting watching the end credits of Midsummer rolling up the screen and just feeling numb. That whole end scene was just so hard to watch. It was so brutal, but yeah, the entire film was amazing, and Florence Pugh has just been an absolute treasure of cinema in 2019. Yep, Jojo Rabbit has pushed out Midsummer into the number 2 spot. I know I only saw this movie a few nights ago, but oh my god, it is so brilliant. It is just one of those movies that made me feel so much, and it inspired me. I really do love movies that inspire me in some sort of way, and yeah, that movie gave me a lot to think about. I thought it was extremely well made. It was hilariously funny. Yeah, so I think that's the winning formula, is something that's really funny and makes me feel something. And well, no other movie in 2019 did it more than this one. Yep. Ever since I saw this movie back in, I think it was February, I have just said, yep, that is my number 1 movie this year. Fighting with My Family, I thought was an absolute comedy masterpiece. I've seen this movie 4 times throughout the year now. I've been showing various friends and stuff, and every time I watch it, it is still fresh. It is still hilariously funny, mainly because the comedic dialogue didn't feel like it was written. It actually felt like the characters were talking. And yeah, just the whole story was really uplifting and inspiring. I loved all the themes about how, you can have a dream in life, but you might not actually get there. And so what do you do if you don't achieve that dream? You know, that stuff is important to me, being that I am an eternal dreamer. So yeah, look, that film really spoke to me, and yeah, it is hands down my number 1 movie of the year. And that was the one that actually made me pay attention to Florence Pugh, which, yeah, it's a shame that Jojo Rabbit pipped Midsummer out of the spot, because it would have been kind of cool to have like a Florence Pugh 1-2 punch in my 1 and 2 positions, but yeah, it just didn't work out that way. Alright, so those were my favorite movies of this year. Let's move on to the absolute garbage that I didn't like. A lot of these movies, actually, no one even knows what I thought about, because Bongo did a lot of these reviews. So I kind of like this time of year, because I actually get to vent my frustrations towards these movies. But like the top 10 list, I do have some dishonorable mentions, and I'm going to start that off with Batman Hush. Now, Batman Hush is an animated film based on one of the most acclaimed Batman graphic novels of all time, and I fucking hated what they did with this thing, because the character of Hush was meant to be the character of Hush, but they changed it in the film, so it's someone else. So I'm not going to spoil, of course, but yeah, they just completely changed the story, and it's like, come on, guys, like, the source material was so great. Why are you changing it? You dickheads. Next one on my list is Terminator Dark Fate, a movie that I just felt was way too much of a rehash of previous Terminator films, but nowhere near as compelling or exciting, and to be honest, I've really forgotten most of the film. Yeah, that franchise just needs to die. You know, just no more Terminator films, unless you're going to come up with some fresh ideas, okay? Next up is a movie that I still cannot believe is in my worst movies of the year. At least it's in the dishonorable mentions, but Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker. I really didn't like that movie. I mean, yeah, it's not as bad as the movies that are on my worst list of the year, but it was still far from anything that I wanted to see in a conclusion to the Skywalker saga. And yeah, I just don't like it. And rounding out this year's dishonorable mentions is Godzilla 2, King of the Monsters. What a snooze fest that movie was. I mean, yeah, had great visuals when you could see them, when it wasn't dark and raining, but overall it just had too many boring scenes of like the human subplot, which I don't mind that stuff as long as it's compelling. They forgot to do that. And I know a lot of people were like, oh, what do you expect? Just you go along to watch a movie about monsters fighting each other. Well, yeah, it would have been great if it was a movie about monsters fighting each other, but it wasn't. It was stupid people doing stupid things and being stupid. However, I didn't dislike it as much as I disliked these fine films. So number 10 is Stuber, a movie that was just really, really bland. Like, I don't know, it just didn't do anything for me. I didn't laugh once throughout the entire film. It's meant to be a comedy. It wasn't. Though the characters were boring, the situations were boring, everything was boring, and yeah, I don't really remember it because it's entirely forgettable. Oh, X-Men Dark Phoenix. Where did the X-Men franchise go so horribly wrong? So this was the final nail in the coffin of the X-Men franchise, and I'm glad it's dead and buried, because that movie absolutely sucked. Yeah, crap characters, stupid plot, really just look, let's just move on. Rambo Last Blood. Speaking of final movies in the franchise, which God I hope it is, yeah, how did they go so horribly wrong? This movie was just really boring and nothing happened until the last 15 minutes when you actually got like a action fest that you kind of wanted in the first part of the movie. And yeah, I don't know, there was just nothing about that film that I liked at all. Didn't like it. Glass was my first big disappointment of 2019. Yeah, after Unbreakable and Split was so good, particularly Unbreakable, I was really looking forward to this movie to the point where I drove an hour to see a press screening of it. And wow, I really regretted making that sort of effort because, oh God, that movie just, not really much happened. I didn't like what they did with the characters, and yeah, that was a really disappointing conclusion to that trilogy. The Curse of La Llorona, or The Curse of the Weeping Woman. I do not remember anything that happened in that film. I'm not kidding. That movie has been completely wiped from my memory. I couldn't tell you a single character in it. I couldn't tell you a single scene that happened. I know I definitely saw it, but yeah, I don't remember any of it. Is that bad? Cold Pursuit. What a crazy movie that was. Really boring, lame plot. Just completely, just one of those movies where so many things happen for no reason, like just out of the blue, just and things that just weren't explained properly. And what the hell happened in that movie? The only good thing that came out of that movie was the amazing video that happened between Bongo and Jared Buckendall, which yeah, if you haven't seen that, I'll link it at the end or something, because yeah, that video I've seen like 20 times now, and it is far more entertaining than anything that happened in Cold Pursuit. Oh, didn't I cop a lot of flack for that one? Yeah, Child's Play. Hated it. Absolutely hated it. I get what they were doing with the whole technology angle and updating it for today's audience. That's fine, but I don't think they did it in a very convincing way. Chuckie wasn't scary, which is a shame because he was voiced by Mark Hamill. And yeah, I remember putting my review of that on there with a 0 out of 10, and so many people got angry with me and were like shaking their fists at me through the screen before they'd seen the film, because I saw it at a press screening and no one else had seen it, and so people are like, how can you hate this film? But then after they saw the film, the comments and stuff on my review were more sort of like, yeah, actually it did suck. Yeah, Last Christmas. Wow, that was a movie. I saw it and I hated it. It was so tedious to sit through. It wasn't funny, and I hated all the characters. Everybody in this movie was a complete jerk, and the whole George Michael thing just didn't work, and everything sucked about it. Everything I hated about Last Christmas. I don't know. Look, what can I say about Banana Splits that I haven't already said before? We all know that I hate the Banana Splits movie. So yeah, a while back, I took a gamble. I bought the Blu-ray when it came out. Didn't know anything about it. Trailer looked good. Watched the movie. Absolutely hated it. I hated every second of that film. Oh my god, so badly. And yeah, so I did a rant video which became really popular, and then all of a sudden everyone started associating me with the Banana Splits movie, to the point where on Twitter and places like that, like, it's just all I've been talking about for several months now. And yeah, that was my number one most hated movie of this year. But I guess now I'm probably going to get stuck talking about this one. Yeah, so Cats, I saw that just a few nights ago, and not only is it my most hated movie of this year, but it is one of my most fucking hated movies of all time. I cannot believe what I had to sit through. The characters were all just completely unlikable. I know there was like a very fine thread of a plot in there, but it made no sense. Like, all these cats are apparently trying to compete for, to die and fly off in a chandelier. But where was the competing, All I got was 2 hours of a bunch of cats introducing themselves throughout the movie. You introduce your characters in the first act. These are characters, off they go. Not this movie, no. It just kept introducing characters all the way up to the end, and that to me does not make for a compelling film. And I don't know if I saw the old version with the crap special effects or the new improved version. Well, it's not new. It's just an improved version. But either way, the special effects in what I saw were absolute garbage. Oh wow. Yeah, look, that movie's not good. Yeah, and it's kind of a shame that when you think about it, that is the last film I saw in cinemas in this decade. Fuck you, Cats. Alright, well, there you go. That is my top 10 best and worst movies of 2019. There is less than half an hour of this year to go, so I'm going to go start editing this thing. I'm going to post it online. And guys, thank you so much to everyone for your support throughout this year. I mean, it's coming up on 4 years that I've been doing this thing, and it still feels like it's the beginning. It still feels like it's so much fun, and that is because of you. Like, this is not a camera that I am talking to right now. It is you person watching this video. I really genuinely appreciate your support, and thank you so much to everyone who I've been making friends with throughout the year. Made so many great new friends who are just amazing people, and I love talking to everybody. And yeah, I know, just thank you so much. And if you want to yell at me or high-five me or whatever you want to do about my list of movies, go right ahead. Drop me some comments either here, Facebook, or Twitter. All the social media links are in the description below, because I like to talk about movies and I would love to talk about movies with you. Happy New Year!
Click subscribe to stay up to date with all the latest movie reviews. Skynet will be taking over any day now, so what have you got to lose? Nyah.